My first time watching Wolf Children, an anime about parenthood and seeing your children grow up, was ironically enough the summer before I left home and started my freshman year of college. At the time, I didn't really give too much thought into what the phrase leaving the nest meant. Besides going to school and cramming for exams, I had no real sense of what I wanted for my future. I didn't know what path I wanted to take, what kind of person I wanted to become, and for the most part assumed that just going with the flow would lead me to where I needed to be. But throughout it all, I knew that whatever I wanted to be, I wanted to be by myself and start my own journey apart from my parents. Looking back, it was very insensitive of me to overlook how much my parents had sacrificed to give me the opportunities I had at the time. But it was only when I first watched Mamoru Hosoda's Wolf Children that summer where I truly realized how daunting the idea of becoming independent truly meant for myself, and especially for my parents. From the film's soft, delicate atmosphere to its heartfelt message, from the way the film naturally builds up to its climax, to the little moments in between, Wolf Children is one of those pieces of media that stays with you for days and weeks after you finish the film. Wolf Children has only become more meaningful to me with time. The more I return to it, the more vividly its quiet moments and intense emotions stick out to me in my subconsciousness. The movie has thrived under the passage of time, and more than just an outstanding anime film, it has become one of the most breathtaking pieces of art this medium has ever produced. These types of anime are ones that I find most valuable and the most rare. Have you ever had that feeling, watching an anime and suddenly realizing how much of yourself you see reflected in it? Well, I certainly have when watching Wolf Children. At first glance, Wolf Children may not seem like much. The film starts off when an ordinary college student, Hana, meets a mysterious, unnamed boy in one of her classes. Their relationship eventually progresses to the point where he ends up revealing to her his secret, that he's part wolf. Hana, however, doesn't seem to mind this fact, and they get together, forming a couple. They have two children, Yuki, an energetic and spirited girl, and Ame, her quiet, timid younger brother. Despite the unusual circumstances surrounding their family, the four of them live a largely ordinary life, one defined by its own challenges with the whole wolf thing, but also by genuine happiness. Then the father unfortunately passes away, and we finally start the beginning of our story where Hana has the challenge of raising two unusual children alone. Although it may be a cliche, it remains very true that no family is ever perfect. Mine certainly wasn't, and I'm sure yours wasn't too. There are days when we can find some of our siblings annoying, our parents neglectful, our cousins distant, or our grandparents just being the incredibly nosy grandparents they are. But in the end, you always try to look on the brighter side of things and make the best of what they are. Hana certainly does, as she tries to raise her two children. Even with no resources, no one to lean on, and no idea how to be a good parent and pet owner at the same time, she manages to keep everything together by a string, while holding on to whatever hope she can through the bleakest parts of her life. On paper, a parent taking responsibility for their child shouldn't feel so remarkable, but in reality, that kind of strength isn't as common as it should be. You often hear stories about parents who, when faced with difficult circumstances, take their frustration out on the people who depend on them the most. Hana is the complete opposite. She gives up nearly everything: her education, her time, and eventually her home, moving to the countryside so Yuki and Ame can grow up without being under the watchful eyes of everyone in the city. And through all of it, she never turns on them. She never lets the weight of her situation become their burden, and she never seems to regret choosing them over herself. The story then spans the next 13 years of Hana's life, following her family as they settle into the countryside, navigate both joy and hardship, and gradually approach a future that none can truly predict. While the first half of the film focuses on Hana's struggles as a single mother, raising two children and building a life in the countryside, the second half focuses more on the lives of both Yuki and Ame. The film continuously presents the two siblings as deliberate contrasts to one another. At first, Yuki is completely in touch with her wolf side, always running around, transforming, getting into trouble, and exploring everything around her. Ame, however, is the opposite. He's much more nervous about turning into a wolf, especially because wolves are usually seen as the bad guys in children's stories. This contrast is later reversed as both siblings face growing pressure to conform. In Yuki's case, that pressure gradually pushes her to hide a part of herself. When she starts elementary school, she's disappointed to find that her classmates don't share her fascination with strange creatures, insects, and snakes. While the other girls enjoy picking flowers and exchanging jewelry, Yuki begins to realize that her interests make her stand out. So in order to avoid being treated like an outcast, she slowly changes herself, becoming more traditionally girly and graceful while suppressing the wolfish side of her personality. Well, this didn't happen in elementary school. I remember moving to California after spending my whole life on the East Coast and starting high school as the quiet anime kid with his hoodie up and headphones in, listening to J-pop or something. Even though plenty of people watch anime nowadays, there was no one around me who was as interested in it as I was at the time. My parents certainly weren't, and neither were most of the students at my school. So, trying to fit in, I slowly moved away from anime. I started watching more basketball and other sports so that I could keep up with conversations. I watched YouTube videos about whatever game was trending at the time, even though I was never interested in any of it. Ironically, instead of seeing myself in Ame, the loner wolf boy, I see much more of myself in Yuki. I've had to conform and change parts of myself to meet new people and make new friends, and I'm sure that a lot of you have had to do the same. Whether it's at school, at work, or just in life, we've all had to change a part of ourselves to meet other people's expectations. For Yuki especially, one of the most jarring moments that shows the shift in identity comes when she gets into trouble with someone at school. Sitting in her mother's car afterwards, she feels the weight of what happens and begins to cry. Compared to her younger self, who never seemed to care what anyone thought of her and carried herself with the invincibility of a wolf, all she can do is cry inside a man-made car and apologize. A distinct contrast to the girl who was once so freely surrounded by nature. When we're young, it's easy to let the opinions of people around us carry far too much weight, treating their approval like proof that we're doing something right. As we grow older though, we begin to realize that this way of thinking only holds us back. Unless we accept ourselves and embrace our own unique quirks and life experiences, how else can we ever hope to become our own persons? Trying to match the expectations of people around you can make you feel less alone for a while, but that comfort often comes at the cost of hiding parts of yourself. The truth is, other people can't fully judge who you are, because they haven't lived through your life or seen the world from your perspective. By the end of the film, we can see this character growth from Yuki when she reveals her wolf form to the boy she accidentally hurt and finally gives him a sincere apology. She knows that showing him this side of herself could scare him away, but choosing to be honest is also her way of accepting who she is. Being a wolf is part of her identity, her background, and her heritage. It's not something she can simply erase. So instead of pushing it aside, Yuki learns to live with it, which I think is the lesson that many of us need to take to heart, embracing our own identity, because that is something no one else should have the power to take from you. Hosoda also uses the film to explore the separation between nature and humanity. Although the two can exist side by side, they can only exist parallel to each other and never completely become one, since nature is inherently unpredictable and untamed, and yet that is exactly what gives nature its beauty. To preserve that beauty, nature cannot be controlled or confined. It has to be allowed to exist freely. And that leads into Ame's arc, which focuses on finding independence from the human world and embracing his place in nature as a wolf. While Hana's story focuses on the struggles of parenthood and Yuki's explores identity, Ame's journey is ultimately about growing up and learning what it means to live independently. At first, Ame is afraid of becoming a wolf because wolves are often portrayed as creatures that are hunted or feared in stories. Hana, being the kind mother she is, reassures him that she will love him all the same. As Ame grows older though, he gradually becomes more drawn to the natural world and its beauty. Especially after his first time hunting a kingfisher by the river, Ame begins to see being a wolf differently. Although the experience nearly costs him his life, surviving it leaves him exhilarated, giving him a new sense of strength and invincibility that he never had felt before. Later, during his training with Sensei in the mountains, Ame is shown running through a field filled with bright flowers. Since flowers repeatedly appear throughout the film as a motif of home, this moment hints at where Ame truly feels most comfortable. Unlike Yuki, who begins to find her place among other people, Ame feels increasingly out of place at school and within human society. The wilderness is where he feels like he belongs. By the end of the film, Ame chooses to embrace life as a wolf and become a protector of the forest. His decision goes against the expectations of society as well as the future Hana and Yuki may have imagined for him. Yuki and Ame both get into a fight near the end of the film over their differing opinions on each other's future. But for Ame, being in nature is where he feels the most at home. And for Hana, this decision was tough to come by. Throughout the entirety of the film, we're shown that Hana's strength is not that she always knows exactly what to do, it's that even when she she has no idea what comes next, she doesn't stop trying. In fact, she approaches every challenge she faces by teaching herself the skills needed to overcome them. When she's unsure about how to handle pregnancy, raise wolf children, or work on a farm, she researches everything she can. But information can only prepare someone so much. Hana has never lived this kind of life before, and no book can truly teach her how difficult it is to raise 2 children alone while surviving in the countryside. But still, her lack of experience never prevents her from giving Ame and Yuki the care they need. At first, Hana assumes that she and her children can handle everything by themselves. After preparing the land for farming, she believes that they only need to grow enough food for their own family. But the villagers gradually teach her that while living in the countryside might give you some space from society, it also means relying on the people around you. Survival in the countryside, especially when you're raising 2 children, is not just about being independent, but also being able to accept support when you need it. That growth in her character makes the winter sequence feel especially meaningful. Not only is it one of the film's few sequences told entirely through music and animation without any dialogue, but it's also the first time Ame and Yuki are able to run freely through the snow as wolves, while Hana gets to experience that joy alongside them after securing a proper place for her children and her to live. When the 3 of them howl together, it's one of the most uplifting moments in the entire film, because it feels like they have, at least for that moment, found a life that they can flourish in together. But Wolf Children never pretends that motherhood is only made up of those happy moments. Raising children means giving them everything you can, knowing that one day they will grow beyond the world you built for them. Hana wants Ame and Yuki to choose their own paths, but when Ame begins moving towards the mountains, she struggles to accept what that choice means. The sound of rain is first used when Hana loses her husband, so when it returns during her conversation with Ame, it reflects her fear of losing someone else she loves. She still sees him as the little boy she needs to protect, and part of her worries is that she somehow failed him. But when she begins to climb the mountain to find him, Hana eventually realizes that Ame is not the one who needs to be saved, it's that she is the one who needs to let go. Seeing him race through the mountains and howl into the storm finally shows her how much he has grown. No parent can completely control where their child ends up, no matter how carefully they try to guide them. Sometimes their children will choose a future that feels distant or impossible to understand, but loving them means supporting that future anyway. Hana cannot follow Ame into the forest, but she can accept that it is where he belongs. Ame's decision may be painful for Hana, but it also proves that her love was not wasted. She gave him the freedom to discover who he was, even when that discovery led him away from her. That is the contradiction at the heart of parenthood. You raise a child to become independent, yet independence eventually means that they no longer need you in the same way. Hana cannot choose Ame's future for him, but she can accept it, remain proud of him, and love him wherever she is. I doubt this will be my last time watching Wolf Children. Films like these outlive the moment they're made in, growing into classics that will continue to resonate years from now. The fact that it has become even more meaningful with every rewatch only proves that. So, if you've never seen Wolf Children, consider this your sign to change that. I genuinely don't think you will ever regret it.